Hello, you're welcome to my channel. I'm Kome by name, and I want to say thank you for stopping by. So please do well to like this video, share it, and subscribe to my channel. So I already uploaded the drafting part of this skirt and blouse. So basically, this is just the sewing aspect of it. So if you haven't checked out the drafting part, do well to check it out, okay? So here are my pieces. The first piece I'm going to be sewing is the facing for the front. So I'm just going to grab my facing and let me show you where you are going to be sewing first. The first part you're going to be sewing in the facing is the bottom. You want to arm the bottom of your facing so that your fabric doesn't fray. Okay, so to do that, you are going to take it to the sewing machine and fold the edge once and then fold it again, just like a roll M. Can you see? Alright, so let me just show you at the other side. You fold once like this and then you fold again, then go ahead and run your stitch. So here I've sewn it now. I'm just going to grab the main bodice, that is the front, and I'm going to align the necklines together. This is my front panel, the upper body is the cool part. So I'm attaching the facing right side facing each other, and I'm going to align the necklines. So I'll start sewing from that notch that I made on the shoulder. I will sew ½ inch right to that part, and I'll sew the other side as well. Now for that sharp edge, you can decide to smoothen it in or leave it as seen. So here I'm done sewing it. Now assuming you're not
So I'm
adding a
just
sleeve
arranging it so that
to your
you'd
bodies, you
see
can
what
go
I'm
ahead and
doing.
sew the armhole,
Like you see what
but
I've
then I'm
done.
going to
So
be
you can
adding a
sew this
sleeve, so
side
I'm just
here,
going to ignore
just
that
mash
part.
it down
So the
here.
next thing is you can
So now let me
raise
show you how
your
the M glue look like. This is it. Some
I'll
people call it
flip
fet.
inside out,
So just let
okay?
me know what you
I'll
call it
flip
in the comment
inside out.
section, okay?
So let me
So
turn
you
it to
can
the
decide to
back.
add this to
Now you
keep
can
it
decide
in
to
place
attach
or you
your
leave it.
hemming glue
I'm going to be
or
leaving
hemming
mine
tape.
actually.
You can decide to attach it to it just to stick the facing to the main bodies. But then I'm not going to be attaching that. I'm going to be sewing the side because it's not necessary. So I can decide to sew the side like this. I mean, you can decide to sew the side or you attach the hemming glue. So here is what I'm talking about. Is an hemming tape, hemming glue. Some people call it fet. So do let me know what you call it in the comment section, okay? All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach my front and back block together. So I'm going to place my back right side facing the front, and then I will align the shoulders together. So you can see how I'm positioning it. This is the back and front, and this is the facing. So you want to turn the facing and place it on top of the back block, okay? So just follow up with what I did and you'd understand when you're making yours. So I'm just going to sew with ½ inch, and I'll do the same thing to the other side as well. I'll place the two main bodies together, right side facing each other, and I will take my facing. Can you see the facing? I'll flip it like this. That's the facing I'm holding. That's the facing. So I'm going to flip it like this. Can you see? Then I'll take it to the sewing machine and also sew it ½ inch as well. So I'm done sewing it now. You can see how it is, right? Let me bring it closer to the camera for you to see. And this is the wrong side. You can see how neat it is. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to, you can decide to sew the side if you're not adding a sleeve, or you sew the side and add your sleeve, or you add your sleeve before sewing the side, whichever one you want. Okay, so here I'm done sewing the sides. I'm just going to finish up the neckline. You can see the back neckline is rough, right? And if you look at the picture we are working with, you can see this design here. So we are going to be making that. Okay, so before then, you, for the armhole, the facing and the lining, you want to mash it together so that when you're fixing your sleeve, it will be easier for you so they don't shift from each other. So these are my long sleeves. So draft your basic long sleeve and then you attach it to it. Okay, so I'm going to work on the neckline, the design I just showed you. You have to measure your neckline round. Okay, you measure it round, and what I'm working with is 14 inches. So you take your fabric and then you fold right side facing each other like this, and you're going to measure. I'm just aligning out, I'm just making everything to lay flat. Okay, I was actually looking for the best parts to use in this fabric. So I'm measuring 8 inches. I'm placing my fabric on fold. So when I make sure 8 inches, when it's not on fold, it means it's 16 inches, right? That is extra 2 inches plus the normal neckline that I have. So on that part that I've marked, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. Okay, and I'll just take my ruler and connect it to the edge of my fabric there. Can you see? So after connecting it, the next thing I'm going to do is to measure, like, now it depends on how wide you want the bands to be. So you can do 3 inches. Remember, we are drafting directly on fabric, right? So you want to add your seam allowance. So if you want your band to be 2 inches, you add extra 1 inch seam allowance, that is half inch, to turn up and down. You get? So I'm using 3 inches. At the end of the day, my band is going to be 2 inches. So I'm just going to cut it out as seen. Alright, so here I've cut it out. I'm still going to cut another one of these, like exactly. So I'm done cutting it now. Now you want to place the right sides of the two pieces together. You can see I notched the upper part, right? That is just to tell the side I'm going to sew to my um
to my main bodies and the side that is going to be up. Okay, so here, remember, I'm just going to confirm my the inches I have there, the amount of inches I have there. So after confirming, I have 1 inch to sew out from one side and 1 inch to sew out from the other side. So I'll be using half inch to close. So by the time I use half inch, it means I have half left, because you want the half to overlap each other. Remember, this bodice does not have a zipper at the back. Assuming it has a zipper, I will not bother to leave half inch. I will just sew everything and turn. But then they are going to overlap each other so that it can be easier for me to wear it. If they don't overlap each other, I can't be able to wear it. So that's why I'm going to be using this Velcro tape. So it's the Velcro tape that will enable me to stick it to each other like this. I can stick it to each other, remove it when I want to wear it, and it will be easier for me. So you can still use a press button, and you can use hook and eye. Yep, you can use that. So that is that. I'm just going to make sure the back neckline, the back neckline is still rough, right? So I'll measure what I have there. Now this overlap I'm going to be having at the collar is going to be at the side, not at the front. It will look nice at the front, so I want it to go to the side. Remember, if you are putting a zipper on your top, you don't need to do this, but I'm not putting a zipper, so that's why I'm doing this. So I'm just going to measure what I measured from the neckline, which is about 6 inches. I'll measure it at the side, leaving like 1.5 or 2 inches before the other hem of my collar. Can you see? You can see the starting point where I mark, and that is the end point. Like I said, the lapping is going to be at the side, right? So I'm just going to position it together like this and notch. So I'll notch as seen, and then I'll open it up. So watch where you are going to sew. Stick with me. Place it right side facing each other. Right side facing each other. I'm just taking my time to align it properly. So now where you're going to sew, you sew half inch. You will completely sew up that part, because that is where it's going to face the up. And then you sew the side, and then you sew this part as well to that part that you notched. Then you leave it like from there to here. You're not going to sew it. Now you start sewing from here down. Can you see? And then you sew this other side as well. So here I'm done sewing it now. After sewing, you want to go ahead and notch, and for all the sharp parts, you are going to cut it off so that when you turn to the right side, that part is going to be as sharp as possible. So just notch that part, and from that other side that you left that you didn't sew, you are going to flip it inside out. So you're just going to make the edges to be sharp with your scissors or your toner. Alright, so you are going to iron flat afterwards.
So you can decide to bring this out like this and notch that part so that it can be easier for you to sew to the neckline. So you notch it and then you take the other side and notch it as well. So here I've ironed flat now. The next thing I'm going to do, you can see this other part, right? You want to fold it in and iron. You fold the seam allowance in and iron it inside while you leave the other one. So this part that you left, you are going to attach it to the neckline. Wrong, you can do it right side facing each other or wrong side facing right side, whichever way you want is fine. So I'm just going to align it together. So just place it like this. Can you see? So this plait that you notch will just make everything to lay smooth. So here I've sewn it now. Now you see that other side that I ironed inward, that I folded. You are just going to turn it like this. Can you see? And then you are going to sew it neatly on it. So this is why you should use a matching thread, guys, so that your work can be neat. So make sure to use a matching thread. So just make sure you're covering the rough edge there, you're covering the seam allowance that you made before. Alright, so we are done with the upper bodice. It's time to work on the skirt part. So this is the back block. I'm just going to set it aside now. And here is my front block. This is the slash parts that we made. So what I'm going to do now is to get my pattern, and I'm just going to tape it back. Before, I will just make it just like it was before I did my slash and spread. This is just to enable me to gather my skirt part so that it can be the original length. Okay, so just stick with me, you understand what I'm trying to explain.
Alright, just tape everything down. There are actually two ways that you can do this. You can decide to tape your pattern down like that's as you can see, or you take that other side that will cut out and you measure the side to know how many inches you have there, so that when you're gathering the other side that you did your slash and spread, you gather to be the same amount of inches with the other side, or with the other pattern that is at the side of the skirt. So here is one part of the front. This is how you're going to gather it. So I'll take it to my sewing machine and make loosed stitches on it. So you can see the pattern, it aligns. Remember, there is 0.75 on that part, and at this other side I added 1 inch as my seam allowance, so don't forget that. So I'm just measuring what I have is about 9.5 inches or so. So I'm just going to gather to be that amount of inches. So I'll make loosed stitches so I can be able to pull. So here I've made my loosed stitches. I'm just going to pull it. So I'll pull gently, arranging the gathers the way I want. So just pull gently and then you arrange the gathers whichever way you want, minding the length that that part is supposed to be. You should mind the length, please, so that it can fit into the other side of the front block. Hope you get. So now, by the time you're done, you see that ½ inch here, you're not going to gather up to that part because you are sewing that part, right? Even the the waist region, you will not gather up to that, to the hem, because you're going to be sewing it. So you want to leave some space that you'll be using to sew. Okay, you want to keep it flat so that you can be able to sew on it. You are attaching your band. So you want to have like, let's say, half of an inch, depending on the amount of seam allowance you added though. So I've gotten the other side of my front block. You should take note of the side. Okay, you should take note of the side, take note of the part that is going up, take note of the side that you are attaching to the gathers. So like I said, this is another way that you can use to know how much you're going to be gathering. So you can see how I'm placing it on that part to make sure that the two lengths align, because I'm going to be attaching the two together, so they have to align, right? All right, here I've gathered it to my satisfaction. So I'm just going to take off my pattern now. As you're taking it off, you should know, align right to right, okay? I'm just placing them right side facing each other. And I'm just going to align it, take it to my sewing machine and sew down. So here I've sewn it now. I'm just going to set it aside to work on my back block. So here is my back block. This is the side of the hip. That's the side seam, and that is the zipper part. You can see the notch on the upper part, right? So where my finger is the hip line. Okay, so I'm just going to sew from that part down. So I'll leave a space that I'm going to be inserting my zipper. So I'll sew with 1 inch down. Okay, so here I'm done sewing it now. The next thing to do, you are going to open up the seams and give it a good press. So after which you can then attach your front block to it. So I'm going to get my front block, place the front and the back right side facing each other. But please, you must have ironed your seams open, okay? So I'll place the front on it, right side facing each other, can you see? And I'm going to align and sew. So align the sides together and sew. So the way I draft my pattern, the back is always bigger than the front because of the bum. That is how I draft my pattern. If you want a tutorial on how to draft a basic skirt block, comment down below so that I can make one for you guys.
Here I'm done sewing it and I've attached my band. So the next thing to do is just to turn the opening with your bias. Okay, turn the opening with your bias and you are done. So this is simply how to make the skirt part. Should in case you have any question, don't hesitate to ask. Please do well to like this video, subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell icon so that you get notified whenever I upload new videos. If you're not in our WhatsApp community, do well to send me a WhatsApp message so that you can join our community. Thank you for watching the video up to this.